You've been searching for the best way to generate passive income in your life and heard that real estate is a great way to do it. But you're tired of all the so-called gurus who are all talk and no substance. Get ready to celebrate because Kevin Buck has spent 14 years successfully making it happen. This is the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Now, here's Kevin Buck.
Hey guys, Kevin Bupp here, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast, where our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income-producing real estate investments. Now, our guest for this week's show is commercial real estate developer and one of Manhattan's most successful skyscraper experts, Ken Van Loo. Now, Ken is a world-renowned authority on real estate investment and development and has completed more than $1.35 billion in development in New York City alone. Now, in addition to his real estate activities, he is also an author, educator, and professional engineer with an advanced degree from New York University and New Jersey Institute of Technology. And so I'm super excited to share with you the very informative conversation that I had with Ken. But before we do, I just have a few quick housekeeping items I'd like to run through. Now, the biggest one that is on everyone's mind, it is probably something that you are currently glued to the TV watching minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, is of the COVID-19 pandemic. And obviously, as you guys are well aware, we as a country are in some very turbulent times as a result of this pandemic. And, stocks are tumbling. Our nation's workforce has made a massive shift to work from home. Many states have gone into full lockdown status. Restaurants and hotels have closed. Businesses are not even closing just temporarily, but also for good because they haven't been able to survive this severe economic impact of loss of revenue for weeks at a time. Schools are closed. And the best way I can really sum this all up is it's absolute mayhem. Heck, I was watching a video the other day. It was a video in Las Vegas on the Strip, and it was practically a ghost town. There was maybe like 2 people walking around, and never before has our country gone into a complete economic lockdown like we're witnessing today. And needless to say, I feel that we are heading into some very uncharted waters. And at this point, the future of our economy and of the health of our people is uncertain. We just don't know what's next, right? It's a day by day, hour by hour type thing. And so there's so much uncertainty out there. It's somewhat scary, but there's a way we can get through all this together, okay? Over the last few months, I've been feverishly watching this thing kind of unfold, and up until this point, I haven't really spoken much about this topic or what our country is currently experiencing, and really the primary reason is because of it being such a fluid situation, right? Again, this is changing literally on an hour by hour, day by day basis. I mean, it's just everyone's kind of glued to the TV figuring out what's next. What state's going to go into another lockdown? And is this going to last weeks? Is it going to last months? Is it going to be years? As some experts might have stated, nobody knows. And even the most renowned economists are taking stabs in the dark as to the overall impact that this worldwide event will have on our economy. And so being that I'm not an economist, nor am I a foremost expert on pandemics or infectious diseases, I don't think that it's my place to give advice on this specific topic. However, what I can speak to is how we as a company are not only managing our business during these uncertain times, but how we're taking this time to strategize and ultimately capitalize on the potential opportunities that might come out in the wash once the dust settles. Now, I can speak to our business itself. We own a number of mobile home communities. Right now, we're in 13 different states, and so we've got many jurisdictions that we deal with. And so we are a private investment company, private equity investment firm that specializes in mobile home parks. So I'll speak to our business and what we're doing to prepare and be proactive as we work through this, very, very challenging time. Now, first and foremost, I'll say that we are having multiple daily strategy sessions with our team, and each and every one of them has stepped up to the plate as a team to get through this together, which is absolutely awesome. I love my team. They're rock stars, each and every one of them. And so we've got the right people on the bus at this point, right? The right butts in the right seats, which is incredibly important, especially during challenging times like we're in today. And so moving on here, we have nearly 2,000 residents throughout our numerous communities, and it's our duty as business owners and landlords to ensure that we do everything in our power to help them get through this difficult time, okay? And so we've got multiple different action plans that we're currently putting into place. And bottom line is we're planning for worst case scenarios across the board. And this is primarily due to loss of income and potential widespread tenant delinquencies that come as a result of unemployment. I think unemployment is going to go to an all-time high here in the coming months. I think it's going to be unprecedented levels. Again, I'm not an economist, and so I'm not going to give you much more of my opinion other than that. But based on how things are starting to play out and the momentum that's being built with all these businesses being shut down across the country, it's looking pretty grim. And so one of the ways that we're planning for this worst case scenario is we're hoarding cash. Okay, cash is king in times like this. And what that means inside of our different mobile home parks or mobile home communities is we're stopping all non-essential repairs and improvements across the portfolio. So that means CapEx projects, renovations, any of that is halting absolutely completely today until further notice. So we're making sure that we keep as much cash reserves on hand as absolutely possible so that we can plan for worst case scenarios. In addition to hoarding cash, we're putting proactive measures in place with each one of our communities that offers an economic support plan for those residents whose financial situation has been directly impacted by COVID-19. And from some of the data that I've been studying, we're planning for a dip of up to 30% in delinquency to come as a result of this national hardship. It could be less severe, it could be more severe, but 30% is pretty catastrophic, especially if it goes on for a couple of months or so. Again, we're hoarding cash to plan for worst case scenarios, knowing that folks are going to be out of work, they're not going to be able to pay their rent. Evictions are on a halt across the country for the most part. And even then, we're not looking to evict people out of their homes when, there's a mass spread of unemployment that's just ravaging the nation, okay? That's not really our objective as being business owners or landlords, okay? And so some of the examples of how we're specifically working with our residents to ease this burden is, number one, we're waiving late fees. No one will actually receive a late fee over these coming months, no matter what time of the month they pay their rent. Another way is we're providing a directory on all the local nonprofit groups and resources that offer rental assistance programs, okay? Not just names, but addresses and phone numbers, points of contact, what have you. We had someone on our team literally spend multiple days researching every single state that we're in, every single local market municipality, and create a directory of all these different support groups and assistance groups that can offer rental assistance in times of need. In addition to that, we're waiving online transaction fees for those who use ACH or credit cards. In fact, we're encouraging our tenant base to move more to paying online. Up to this point in time, only about 15% of our residents used online payment methods or ACH withdrawal. A lot of them paid in not cash, but with money order or check. And so we're trying to encourage them to do the complete opposite, which is pay online. And in order to encourage them to do that, incentivize them, we're going to waive the transactional fee. That way they don't have to come in contact with our community manager, thus helping to eliminate the spread of this crazy virus that's going on right now. In addition to the transaction fees being waived, we're creating a live support phone line with a real person in our office where residents can call and get help with their specific financial dilemma via a forbearance program or deferment program that we'll put in place on a case-by-case basis. Now, guys, that's just to name a few. There's many other things that we're putting in place, and also we're going to be very dynamic as this all plays out. I mean, we're going to have to make calls on the fly and create a playbook as we roll forward. But we're trying to be as proactive as possible so that we're not in a reactive state. And these are just some of the things that we're putting in place right now today. One of the other big things that we're working on is proactively working with lenders to open up the lines of communication in the event a worst case scenario plays out. And that's in the event that we have a massive delinquency across the board over a number of months, so where it basically depletes our cash reserves and we have a challenge meeting our debt service requirements, okay? Again, that's worst case scenario. It would take quite some time for us to get there, but again, we're hoping for the best, but still planning for the worst. And so, guys, just those some of the things that we're doing behind the scenes in our business, in our company to be proactive about these crazy times that are lying ahead of us here. Our goal is to keep our residents in their home, provide a safe place for them to live and raise their families as we go through these economic hardships. And so again, we're doing everything in our power to ensure that we can all weather this storm together. Now, as far as some of the other things that we've been working on behind the scenes, I guess you could say in our business, because it is still part of our business. It's not the operation side of our business. Is strategizing for future opportunities. Now, although the health of my family and my business, my current operational business, the mobile home park portfolio that we own, those two things are my number one priority. The health of my family and my health of my business, they're my number one priorities today. We'd be doing ourselves a disservice to get stuck in a state of fear by living through this on a day-by-day basis and not looking forward to the future. Yes, it's scary, guys. Seriously, I know, right? It's scary as heck. And yes, pretty much most of us will take some bruises on the chin during these coming months. But what I find exciting is that while everyone else is running scared, my team and I are using this precious time to plan for the future. And I'm not just talking about the next few months, but more importantly, the next few years. You see, I'm fairly confident of two things. Number one, this virus will pass in due time, and as a result, the economy will get back to normal business. Now, number two, as a result of the troubled months that all businesses have faced during this economic downturn, the weaker businesses, or the ones that were on unstable ground to start with, will fall victim and they'll go out of business. And this includes real estate, restaurants, and every other type of business, right? Service businesses, what have you. And this will result in opportunities for those who are ready to play ball. And I can promise you, my team and I will be ready to spring into action. In fact, we've technically been planning on some type of economic slowdown for some time now, but we had no clue of when or what would cause it. Now, behind the scenes, we've been working on what will become our third Reg D 506C offering. And unlike our last two funds that solely had mobile home parks as our asset of choice, we will be adding what we feel is equally one of the most recession-resistant investment vehicles that exists outside of mobile home parks. Additionally, industry data shows that this is one of the most, if not the most, fragmented asset classes that exist today. Kind of similar to what mobile home parks and self-storage facilities were like 20 years ago. Fragmentation of ownership spells opportunity to us. And the best part is, this asset type isn't even on anyone's radar at the moment. Yet we've been intensely studying it for the last 1.5 years, and now's the time. Now's the time that we're ready to take action. And guys, I'm going to share this with you. I know I've been leading up to this for the last couple of episodes. I've been kind of mysterious with what this asset class is because I want to make sure that when I announce this, I know there's going to be folks out there that go out and try to find them themselves and they start hunting for these opportunities, create competition for us. And I'm okay with competition, but I wanted to make sure that as soon as I announce this, we're ready to rock and roll and move forward, and we're nearly there. And so, guys, the asset class that we're super excited about, equally as excited about as mobile home parks, is parking. And more specifically, surface parking lots and garages located in central business districts of primary and secondary markets. Now, in the coming weeks, I'm going to be sharing many more of the intimate details as to why we absolutely love this asset class so much. But in parting, I'll start with one of the benefits that's by far my favorite, and it's the hands-off operational approach that is commonplace in this niche. Now, very similar to that of a double or triple net commercial investment property where a tenant signs a 5 or 10-year guaranteed lease, this same model is one of the most common operational practices in the parking sector. This means that our parking lot or garage will be leased by a creditworthy regional, national, or publicly traded operator who will manage all the day-to-day operations and simply write us a check each and every month. Again, there's many reasons why we absolutely love this asset class, and I'll be sharing those with you in the coming weeks. And so I don't want to drone on here. I want to make sure we get on to the show with Ken, which is why you're here anyway. But I wanted to share why we're excited, what we're doing in our business to plan for worst case scenarios with COVID-19, but also not get stuck in a state of fear. Really look forward to the future and strategize and put the necessary pieces in place so that we can capitalize on opportunities that present themselves as we move forward through this challenging economic time. Okay, guys, so stay tuned, and I'm going to be sharing many more details here over the coming weeks. And so now, without further ado, let's get on to the part of the show that you guys have been waiting for, which is our interview with Ken Van Loo. So here we go. Alrighty, guys, it is my honor to introduce my guest for today's show, author, educator, engineer, and one of Manhattan's most successful skyscraper experts, Ken Van Loo. Ken, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome.
Yeah, thanks for joining us here. Yeah, very much looking forward to having you here. I spent a good bit of time doing my research on your background, and you've been involved in a lot. You've had your hands in a lot of pots over the years, and many different iconic real estate development projects, amongst many other things. And so very excited to to kind of dig in and learn about your background and ultimately how you got started and how you got to where you're at today. But before we do that, Kev, for those folks that might not be familiar with you, might not know who you are, maybe take just a few minutes to give us a little bit of a background of yourself and ultimately how you got into the real estate business.
Absolutely. How's everybody doing today? Thanks again for having me on, Ken Van Loo. And, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I've been married for 38 years. I have 3 awesome children, twins, 27 years old. My son is a U.S. Marine intelligence officer. His twin sister is a culinary nutrition master. She teaches culinary medicine. My youngest daughter is an equine expert, rides horses and doing her MBA. Really big family guy. I graduated in civil engineering after 6 struggling years. I really like to play football more than do homework. But I finally graduated, and then after failing a PE test about 5 times, I became a professional engineer. And during that time, I was in construction. I was in engineering for maybe a year and a half, and learned how to do construction, and was in construction into my mid-30s when I had this dream of cutting the ribbon on a new development. And about at the age 36, I succeeded with a $17 million real estate development that I developed with really no real estate experience. I had construction experience and really no money. I did it with using other people's money. So that was pretty fascinating. And I did that over the years and, kind of got really into real estate, and I've been doing it for probably over 25 years. So it's been fun.
Okay. It sounds like an exciting ride. So I'd love to, go back to that very first deal. I mean, that pretty much in my mind is the foundation, right? The foundation of what you built today and all the different projects that you've been involved in. You had mentioned a $17 million development project that you raised capital for, so you did a syndication. Can you provide some additional insight onto that, into that deal? What was it? Where was it located? I'd love to dissect it a little bit and see if we can learn something there from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting because, I was 36. I had twins. I was having a hard time kind of affording formula and diapers and all that kind of stuff. And, my mother-in-law invited me to a golf outing, surprisingly, because her bosses were recruiting at a country club, and I make a long story short, they had this executive special. I joined a country club told my wife, let me, borrow $5,000 from a credit card. 4 rounds into this country club thing, I'm telling my story to someone, how I'm going to put together real estate deals, et cetera. And he goes, yeah, I'll give you $100,000. That led to me taking $25,000 of that money and making some phone calls, meeting a dentist that led me, meeting an architect that led me to a dentist that had a certificate of need. I didn't even know what it was. I had this $100,000 in the bank. I go see this dentist. He's like, I got this certificate of need. I could build an assisted living. I'm like, oh, I could do that. I thought it was like Bill Gates, saying I could build Microsoft. I didn't know what I was doing, But in the meantime, I hand wrote a letter of intent. I'm like, if you have this certificate of need, I'll figure out how to build it. And I took $25,000 of that $100,000 and I locked it up with contingent upon approval. It was a 12-acre site. It was located in Bridgewater, New Jersey. It was in the back of kind of like an office complex. Mm-hmm. And, I just kind of dove in, and I figured out if I could get this thing with, contingent upon approval, I could then raise money and move it forward. So, I locked it up, and if I'm rambling, just raise your hand. I locked it up for $25,000, and I said to myself, okay, how am I going to get through the approvals here? So, I have this coined phrase from the 1992 Olympics, the dream team. I'm like, okay, I got to put this dream team together because I just know construction. I got to get through approvals. So I go downtown, and I didn't know that when you ask, the building department if they could tell you who I should hire, they go, sir, you can't solicit names in the building department. So make a long story short, I found out who the board counsel was, gave him a call, asked him, who was the counsel before you? Found out it was a guy by the name of Bill Savo. Call this guy Bill Savo. He's like, yeah, let's put this dream team together. We'll put together a planner, a traffic guy, and we'll go in and get the approvals. And that's kind of how it started,
Very, very interesting. So you simplify that, but I'm sure that there were a lot of additional hiccups that came along the way that became, obviously learning experiences for you. But I'm guessing now that I'm here talking to you, and I've seen many other projects that you've done. That first one, you made it to the completion stage. The project didn't go off without a hitch, more than likely, but ultimately it was a successful project. And so, what were some of those? If you can, think back, I guess you said about 20 years ago, correct? Is that what we're talking here?
1999 this got done.
Yeah. Okay. Can you think back as to some of the biggest challenges that you faced? Not even in the beginning stages, right? So like there was challenges along the way, kind of the fake it till you make it. Like you were just acting as though, hey, I know what I'm doing here. You didn't really know what you're doing, but you figure it out, right? We all figure it out if we put the energy and time and focus into it. But as you got deep into the project, things started getting a lot realer. And I'm assuming there were probably a few big hurdles that you had to overcome. Can you recall what maybe a few of those were?
Yeah, excellent question. It was a constant hurdle. Just as, finding the project kind of fell on me, but then, just funding it to realize like, wow, how am I going to fund it? So I funded it through the New Jersey Economic Development Agency, and what I learned with that was that, you could really do it with like 10% down, right? You can't really do developments with 10% down. So, they pump on some numbers, but I had to raise like 1.7 million. So the first thing I learned about was like, setting up tranches, I didn't even know how to raise money back then. Part of my deal was, I'm at the country club. I'm going to go talk to all these rich people. I'll invite them to lunch. And, I started presenting, and my first raise was only 400. And that got me kind of through the approvals. And I was like stuck again. I'm going, okay, let me raise another 400 to get all the drawings done. And then when I got the drawings done and I submitted them, I was like, okay, I need, another 700 to close, so the whole financing aspect was kind of, just a newbie for me. One of the biggest things is after I signed the deal, the dentist forgot to tell us that his firm that was giving us the development rights, he was actually in bankruptcy. So he didn't tell us on purpose, because he needed our signed deal to go to the bankruptcy court to say, hey, guess what? I just sold this thing. I'm going to be out of bankruptcy now. So that was like a major hurdle that my lawyers missed, which sent us into a tizzy. And, I guess I would have to say is, the development thing is every day is totally different, right? And it's the beauty of it. And I recommend people, if you have entitlement plays where you can get land and go through this approval process, you could really, add some substantial value up front. But those were the constant challenges. Just that, in the development process, the dream team grows almost to like 50 different players. You have design professionals and contractors. So there was always a glitch. One of the things that I did to overcome it, was we were over budget, like $400,000. And, I had an opportunity to put a proposal in to build it myself. But as a fiduciary responsible party, you can't just say, hey, I'm doing the construction job. They go, well, we want to put it out for bid. So when we went out for bid, we were at bids at like 9.1, 9.2 million. I ended up doing the job for 8.7. But, that was, an opportunity that I had and some value that I brought to the table. But I don't know if that answered your question. Those were some of the hurdles. And one of the things that I forgot to mention was how I got over that hurdle is I actually did this project all precast, right? So I had prefabricated. I had all the slabs poured, all the walls built. So when the stuff arrived at the site, we literally had a 72,000 square foot building standing in about 30 days. It was pretty phenomenal.
That's amazing. Yeah. And technology has come even much further since that point in time. It's quite interesting. In fact, I was just having a conversation the other day with a developer, multifamily developer that is currently working on a modular. I think it was maybe a 96 unit out in the West Coast. I think it was Seattle area. All modular. Literally go 96 units go up in a matter of 2 weeks. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we did a modular in Brooklyn, a hotel, and it was
okay.
You literally screw fixtures on the ceiling.
That's
like,
it.
The toilets were installed. Like I was just like, it was amazing. Yeah, it was crazy.
So give us an idea what your business looks like today. Obviously, you go to your website and you've got a lot of different development projects you've been involved in over the years. I also think I read on your bio that you have even a fix and flip arm of your business. So you've got multiple different sides of your business. But just, I guess, generally speaking, what does it look like today?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so the fix and flip thing was a couple of years ago. I was
Okay.
CEO of Flipping New Jersey, and we had done like 137 deals in 1 year, and I had a system which we're creating, a micro development program around it. A lot of my team and players, a lot of people do fix and flips. I support them. I mean, I personally don't do any right now. A couple of years
Okay.
ago, I would do them occasionally. Um, I mean, they're great. My system, what I proved is that the syndication system actually works for wholesaling and flipping. When we
Hmm.
did our deal, we didn't use any of our own money, and we probably did about 2 million in net revenue that year. So it worked out really well. But how my business looks now, it's been interesting because it's been evolving a little bit. So about when I left flipping NJ a couple of years ago, I decided to focus on my global real estate strategies business, which is real estate development, but I also advise some very high net worth individuals. One of the projects, we're doing right now is a $40 million penthouse renovation at 66 in Madison, just a spectacular project looking over Central Park. Um, we have two developments in the pipeline. We have, I don't know, in Jersey, the old Larison's turkey farm. We're doing a 10-acre development of a CVS commercial office building, new restaurant, and some co-units.
Hmm.
We just grabbed 13 acres. We're looking to do um, a zoning change, or we can do hotel, assisted living, and storage. That's taken a lot of my time, just getting those things in the pipeline. So I'm constantly raising. And, the one thing that I've been kind of wrestling with is, with the book hitting #1 and all that kind of stuff, is how I could really, serve the people without, taking too much of my time. So we put together a little lean and mean team. I got a Marine kind of running it. It reminds me of a Navy SEAL. To kind of put some systems in place where we can have some group programs and maybe some one-on-one training for people, where people can realize, like, I'm a normal guy. I put my pants on one leg at a time, and it's not that hard to get in touch with me, if you need some help. So that's kind of what I've
Got
been
it.
doing. You said something about nice weather before, but I would love to live in Puerto Rico one day, and export my real estate development services from there and enjoy the weather.
Yeah.
People ask me for my where do I want to wake up every day.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, yeah. As we talked about, I'm from the Northeast as well, and just had enough of those gray winters, and the long winters. But yeah, to each his own. My family still loves it, so they say, and they're not leaving. But
All guys don't do good in the snow over
no,
here. I'm, I'm
no,
always
no.
I'm always cold, since I lost my hair.
My business partner's got that sleek look going on as well, and I very often find him wearing a beanie in the office in Florida. uh, in any event, you made a mention about a few minutes back during our initial discussion about the entitlement game and how there's a good bit of money that can be made, adding value to parcels of land by taking it through the entitlement stage. Is that what your business, when you talk about these two projects you have working today, is that where you're taking those projects to, just the shovel ready phase, or are you actually seeing them through?
Yeah, great question. And I recommend this to everybody, that likes real estate, is, really get into this land bank / entitlement thing, where
Hmm.
you're determining highest and best use and things like that. And to answer your question on these projects, like, I always leave myself open, right? And I do show events, as far as exit strategies. But to give you an example, on Chester, in order to help cash flow, we actually sold off the residential component, right?
Got it.
The CVS, I have CVS developing, and I have a ground lease where I share revenue. The commercial office I would like to develop, and it's all going to be dependent upon the lease negotiations that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the restaurant, of course, ideally, nobody, at least me, doesn't want to be in the restaurant business. But ideally, if I could sell that pad, I would do that. If they needed me to help me with construction, that would be fine. So kind of like that's a little mini office development, in addition to kind of completing the entitlement play where we have site plan
Mm-hmm.
approval, and now we're just finishing up the engineering. But to segue into my conversation on Bedminster, which is a 13-acre property, and it's zoned 10-acre residential, right? So my first move there, and through the risk stage, is getting the zoning approval, right? So we figured there's probably $250,000 in expenditure to get to the zoning, and of course we don't go into these things unless we've had some backdoor conversations and meetings.
Sure.
That we're pretty much going to get it. Because we do put the money at risk, and we bring in people at risk, at an early stage if they want to buy in at a low basis. But on that specific example, my first thing would be to subdivide it so that I could do a hotel, a portion of residential, and a storage. Whichever one of those during that process of getting the approval, I maybe get a hot buyer and someone says, you know what, I'll buy the resi for $125,000 a unit. I'll be like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take $5 million. I'll close my property out for 3.5. I'll probably be in 4.5 with all the approvals. And right there, I'm in free for 2 development sites, right? So then if I sell off the hotel and pocket $5 million, me and the other guy whack that up, and then say we develop the storage, and that's a cash cow for us. So that's kind of the, my exit strategies as 2 days ago that I laid on a piece of paper showing the guy that I'm going to get the money from on, hey, this is what we could do, but we could also do this, or we could do this, or we could, so a lot of times, on the projects that there's more ground and stuff, and you're not quite sure how the subdivision is going to land, we'll kind of leave it in that kind of flex. Of course, when we're doing, something in New York, it's full blown all of us, right? Like, we just, finished a project on 96th Street, which is struggling right now. We had to refinance, and the market's softening. So there's all kinds of things going on besides the coronavirus.
Yeah, which we're going to talk to. We're definitely going to get to that. A few other questions. One that comes to mind is, the importance of being politically connected. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but being a developer, you made a comment about, going into these projects, there's a lot of upfront money at risk as far as going through the zoning phase and the entitlement phase. And you surely you'll want to mitigate that risk as much as possible, which, how you do that is by getting a good indication that it's going to get approved if you take the necessary steps, right? And so, would you say that, one of the key attributes of a successful developer is actually having those political connections in their local marketplace where they're building?
Yes, there's no question about it. And I don't necessarily, want to use the word political connections, just because politics is so sensitive, but it's more or less having the relationships, like I noticed, like I would consider a political, connection, where you would be reaching to a board council. What I find is, from years of being a professional civil engineer in New Jersey, I know most engineering firms, have been in municipalities, and those are the guys that I want doing my engineering.
Yeah. Got it. So they've got the relationships. You're hiring the professionals that have those pre-existing relationships. I mean, the dream team. You just want to ensure that each member of that dream team, whatever their specialty is and what they're bringing to the table, ultimately also exists of, the key relationships that are needed to push the project along.
Yeah, because most people know, Global or, Ken Van Loo's been around, but they want to know, like, who's the guy putting their name behind the calculations, saying that the drainage is okay, so yeah. It's
Got it. So, regarding Manhattan, so you've been involved in a number of projects in Manhattan, and I just, most folks think of Manhattan as this might not be the right way to phrase it, but as far as like from an investment perspective, right? That's where the big money goes. That's where the big players are. That's where the institutions are. And so I think a lot of people just chalk that up to being, it's a cutthroat environment, right? To where the little guy, it's very hard for the little guy or the smaller player to make a name for themselves, to actively not just pursue, but actually be awarded an opportunity, again, in that type of environment. And so, tell me about making a name for yourself. I know you were a civil engineer for many, many years. So that, I'm sure that helped a little, that helped not a little bit, but a lot establish yourself. But other than that, outside of that, what advice would you give to somebody that has a dream to get involved in New York City, Manhattan real estate, whether it be from a development perspective or just general investment perspective, that has a fear of, the big guy competition that exists?
Yeah, no, great question. Yeah, so in New York City, it's a little bit of mindset, and mentoring, and following and building relationships with people that have done it. I think I just changed my train of thought here. I'm not sure if I'm going off on the right question here. Tell me the question one more time, because I had another thought that came to mind. So
simply put, most folks would chalk New York, that if they're not actively in New York, I mean, folks from the outside think of investing or developing New York, or New York City or Manhattan real estate as being, it's a cutthroat environment, lots of institutional players. So how does one make a name or establish themselves if they're not already a name?
Yeah. So it appears as a cutthroat, and you hear a lot of times it's kind of like swimming with the sharks, but you're also swimming with the most educated people in the world. So
there you go. Great point.
It's like anything else, it goes down to fundamentals, about rapport building, and fortunately what I found is it's proximity is power, right? So in the instance where New York, is say a little threatening, and where it doesn't appear to be a level playing ground, once you get in there and if you ask for help, most people are going to guide you in the right direction. Don't get me wrong. Anywhere you go in the world, you're going to find people that have their own agenda. But, I guess I could say that only because I grew up around New York. I mean, my wife, when I got married, was like, I can't go to New York. They're going to pickpocket me. I mean, that was her belief system. That was her belief system growing up.
Yeah.
I grew up going to Brooklyn every Sunday, and my family was Italian, and we weren't afraid to be on the street. We were street smart, and, New York, no question, you want to be a little street smart, but, it is the mega capital of the world, the funding, education. And it's kind of forced me to stay in this area because, I got into this skyscraper development, and there aren't many places in the country that you can, develop skyscrapers. If it was up to me, I'd be living in like Charleston, South Carolina or something, but, where my son went to school. But, that's my take on New York. I mean, I would just tell people, don't be afraid of New York. You're going to come to New York, and you're going to be fascinated by the architecture the moment you walk into the city, just the amount of things going on, and it's an inquiry. Like when you go to New York, it forces you into an inquiry in life. And you can't figure things out. The human mind can figure out the question to answer to any question, provided you ask it some good questions.
Yeah, no, great points you make there. So I want to be conscious of the time here, and I want to make sure that we switch the gears here at this point and move over to I guess a topic that is incredibly relevant here today. We chatted about it a little bit before we started recording. The coronavirus, COVID-19. It's unfortunate that we're at that point in time in the world where this has become a pandemic, and it's not just affecting us here in the U.S. I mean, it's affecting the global economy, and I think that it's so much in the infancy. I know that China's they're kind of making leaps and bounds progress as far as the declining amount of cases that are being reported each and every day. However, I feel like it's only getting ramped up in other parts of the world, and it's going to be a very interesting couple of months, or I'm going to say it's going to be an interesting 2020 because I don't think anyone knows exactly how the trickle down effect economically is going to shockwave the different industries that pretty much every industry is going to be affected by this. To what extent we don't know, and so I'd love to know, from your perspective, what types of steps have you taken, you and your company? Obviously, you're involved in a number of projects here today. Are there any active steps that you guys have taken to prepare, and hopefully mitigate yourself from as much risk as possible as this kind of plays out?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a challenging situation, and me being, very optimistic, one of my clients called me last night and, you know, you know, brought some information to my attention that like you said, we need to take action. So the actions as far as physically wise, we've been following, a lot of the decisions that have been made. Like today we had our project meetings remote, using Zoom, and they're broken down, where normally we sit in an incubator for 5 hours on Tuesdays, on a job site. So we've taken those precautions. There's all kinds of precautions with curfews in New Jersey, which we're kind of just following suit. The thing that I don't, it's going to concern everybody, but with the feds lowering the interest rate, and with companies having credit lines, what occurred in the last 24 hours is there was a massive drawdown of all the credit lines, somewhere in the vicinity of like $2 million, which is going to cause a liquidity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, that's kind of above my pay grade, but I would think there'll probably be some struggles to get cash. I don't think there'll be credit exchange issues, but that's something that we, if we're going to be a realist, we got to look at that impact, and the other, I think the companies are doing it because most companies, have a month or two of cash flow, and most employees have less than that. Right. So we're kind of bracing for that. And, I'm not so sure, of an answer right now, because it's very fluid. On our job site, we just heard this morning that one of the larger job sites, which had 150 men, they actually sent them home. Now I'm concerned that the building department, would have the authority that they can start shutting down projects. But, I'm in it with everybody else. I'm here trying to figure out how to mitigate situations. Like yesterday, I came to the realization when my daughter said that she's in the middle of a nutrition program where they canceled her rotations until May. And then I'm thinking, oh, great, my daughter's getting married in June. I hope that the wedding doesn't get impacted. So it's a tough situation. It's a tough time for us. My wife's up there nervous. Everybody's nervous. And all we could do is, you mentioned fake it till you make it. We could faith it till we make it through.
There you go. Yeah. No, it's going to be challenging times for all ahead, and I don't think there's not a right or wrong answer to how are you prepared, how are you not prepared. This is also new, and the folks that are listening to us right now, we recorded this 6 days ago, and so more than likely there's been other things that have transpired since the day of this recording, and so again, but it's going to be on a day by day basis. So with that being said, I had an interview last week with a gentleman, a private equity firm. They're actually based in Tampa, just coincidentally, and they have investments in a number of different asset classes. But one of them, which takes up about 30% of their portfolio, is in hotels, and hotels mostly in tourism-driven markets. Down here in down in Florida, the beaches, what have you. And just really talking to them about their plan, and one of their biggest takeaways from that conversation, which I guess you could say it's fairly common sense, is make sure that you actually have liquidity. Do everything in your power today to plan for the worst in the event that their hotels won't have occupancy for the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks or possibly even longer than that. What type of capital position are you in today to help support your business during this unstable period of time? And again, I don't think anyone even knows what that means as far as how much liquidity do you really need, because we don't know how long this is going to play out. In any event, one of the flip sides of that conversation that I had with him, and it's one that I'm sure he didn't want to have or even think down that road, but what are the potential opportunities? And I don't like to this isn't being insensitive to the matter at hand. But as we know, when we go through these economically challenging times, what comes out of that are, the disruption in one individual's business becomes an opportunity to another, right? And again, I don't want to be insensitive to the matter, and so that's not the approach I'm taking here. However, what do you think might be some opportunities, Ken, that might come out of this? And are you thinking that way? Again, I don't want to be insensitive here, and the question is just, looking back at 2008, 2009. Following that Great Recession, there was opportunities for a number of years due to distress that folks went through during that period of time. And I think that we're going to have some sort of that's going to play out here, not in the immediate months, but more than likely here over the next year or two. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Actually my thought yesterday, not from, we can make money from it, but my first thought was, young kids are going to be home, and everybody's going to be going stir crazy. There's probably going to be a lot more internet activity, and I right away was like, how could we educate the people to look at other options to make money, right? Because now if there's going to be a fallout, real estate is a very low buy-in, right? So if you get people that are like, okay, I'm ready to get into real estate investing, and you talk a half decent game, there's going to be opportunities, right, across the board. Unfortunately, the opportunities that may come about in the hospitality industry because someone took a bath, that's, to me, not the most ethical thing to do. But, unfortunately, some people go down and some people come up. I have partners right now that aren't even returning my calls. I can only imagine what they're going through. I know hotels have been delayed in opening, restaurants have been shut down, and I'm saying to myself, I'm kind of glad today I'm not more hospitality, but like anything else, whether it's rental, where people that are going to lose their jobs get affected, whether it's an assisted living where the coronavirus gets into the facility, or a hospitality, with every negative, there's a positive, right? So, all I could say is if people are feeling negative right now, like get up, shake your body out, and like think of some positive option on how you can make it better for everybody,
Well, I think that's the one thing that we can control. And I reflect back to 2008, 2009, 2010, during that period of time, I had some challenges in my business, some pretty significant challenges in my business. And the one thing that everything else was outside of my control. The one thing I could control was my mind and my body and how I felt and how I thought about things. And so I just spent a lot more time emphasizing, what I was putting into my body as far as foods and what have you. And I spent a lot more time exercising, physically, but also even, mentally, and just really tried to focus on, the items that were within my control, which there wasn't many. However, that was one of them. And that ultimately will help carry everyone that's listening that ultimately runs into some challenges here. Just reflect back on that and know that as long as you've got your mind and your body and you're a healthy individual, you'll make it through. And you might have some bruises on the other side, but you'll make it through, and you'll be a stronger investor, business person, what have you, because of it. So, again, just trying to make light of this whole situation, I guess. I did see an interesting meme on Facebook or Instagram the other day, which basically stated, now that everyone's at home, baby making rates are probably going to boom quite a bit. And so what are we going to call this new class of folks that are born during this period of time? like Corona boomers, or
It was funny. I heard one guy say, if they don't solve the Corona problem soon and it goes into summer, everybody's going to be having Corona and Lyme.
Yeah, no, that's there's all kinds of jokes that are going to come out of this. But anyway, I think it's good to make light of a somewhat potentially dire situation, right? It's all about, again, having that, remaining positive and having that positive outlook moving forward through all this, and just really being there to support one another and help the neighbor. This is a situation where we've got to come together and factor in social distancing, but still be there to help out neighbors, right? Help out your neighbor, your friends, your associates, your colleagues, what have you, because everyone's going to feel some sort of pain, some more than others. Moving on here, Ken, I'd like to move into what I call the lightning round. And this is where, we tried to get a little bit more of an intimate look at who you are as an individual. And I've got six questions I'd like to ask you, just looking for six short, concise answers in return. The first one being your biggest fear.
Yeah. I would say fear of like not being enough, fear of failure, even after all these years of success. There's always that split second, like I go, oh shit, am I going to be able to do this? Excuse my French. And then I kind of shake it off and then just, focus that it's much bigger than myself. But I noticed when fear comes into play, I just make it a lot bigger than myself.
Yeah, that's great. How about your one biggest regret, if any?
My one biggest regret, I would say, I really don't really have any. I mean, sometimes I regret not going into more finance because I consider myself, a weakness in raising money. But I kind of got a little bit better at it, But I at one point I used to regret that I didn't go to Wall Street and kind of become like like an investment, advisor, big money type of thing, hedge fund. That was probably my only regret, But it turned out okay.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you did. How about most influential book that you've read?
I have so many great influential books.
If you're stuck on a desert island and you could only take one of them with you, which one would it be?
Yeah, it would probably be one of my magic books called Card College. I'm a magician at heart.
Okay.
I love doing magic as a hobby. From a business standpoint, I read it 4 or 5 times. I guess I'd probably have to go with either the Bible or Think and Grow Rich. So. Got it. Yeah.
How about outside the daily work grind? What do you do to decompress and chill out?
Yeah. I belong to a couple gyms, so I like to work out. I like to do magic, so I'm always like messing around sometimes with a routine, and I like to write lately. Since I wrote this book, I was never a great writer, but I've been writing some stuff. So, yeah.
Did you write it? Did you write it yourself? Did you have a ghostwriter help you at all, or
not? I actually wrote the book myself. Yeah, it took a year, and it was like 1 month a chapter. I think there was 1 month in there I had brain freeze. I couldn't think of anything. But yeah, this one I wanted to write one myself. I did some co-authors, and I have a couple more to get out that I may get some assistance with. But they're kind of outlined. But yeah,
that's great.
Decompress, yeah.
How about the one thing that you can't live without?
Yeah, I'd have to say my wife. Yeah, Terry. She's
great.
She's been with me for 38 years, and she had a great career at L'Oreal, and she recently retired, and it's just been great hanging out with her every day.
Yeah, fantastic. How about one day you wake up, just whatever you lost the desire, lost the passion, and decided that you no longer want to be in the real estate game or development game. What would you shift your focus to and spend your time on?
Yeah, it would probably be speaking with some magic involved. I spoke 2 weeks ago in New York City, and I spoke on inspiration, not to sell anything, just to inspire people. And at the end, I did a cut and restored magic rope trick, and it just felt really good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Ken, this has been a lot of fun. You shared a lot of great information with us. I know that the conversation went a couple different ways, and one of the topics being the coronavirus isn't necessarily all that fun of a topic to discuss, but it's real. I mean, it's happening today, and it's a reality for us, you and I, but also everyone that's listening is being impacted by it one way or another. So I appreciate your candor and just being open and transparent with you and your business and ultimately your thoughts on the subject. So I just really, really appreciate that. And what I would ask of you as we move towards the end of the show here, if you had just one last golden nugget or piece of wisdom that might inspire and motivate those that are listening in that are looking to push forward in their real estate investing career, what would that one last golden nugget be?
Yes. Yeah, I honestly have to say, you must keep your dreams alive and never, ever, ever give up. Never.
Yeah, I love it. Even when times get tough, because if you're in business and just know that even seemingly when times are good, times are still tough behind the scenes. You just got to figure out how to shift your mindset and always try to uncover the lesson or the positives in what seemingly is a challenging situation. That's kind of what I found. I mean, it's part of life. It's part of being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, investor, what have you. There's always going to be challenges. Probably a couple a day, and some are just bigger than the others. And it's really how you view them and how you work through them. So, in any event, Ken, this has been a lot of fun. Really, really appreciate you coming on here. And what I'd love for you, if you could, I know we've got your website. I'm going to share with the listeners. Guys, if you want to learn more about Ken and what he's got going on, you can also find out about some courses and programs, and also his book he had mentioned on his website. His website is kenvanliew.com, and that's Van, VANLIEW, kenvanliew.com. And Ken, is there anything else, any other place we can reach you or find out more about what you got going on?
Yeah, the website, there's a button right when you go to the website. It says dive in, and that will lead to a phone conference directly with me if you wanted to chat. You'll either get a call from myself or my director of sales, but we're really about having a conversation like we had a conversation today. Through conversation, you can create any possibilities, and every person's different. And what we really pride ourselves on is being able to customize, solutions for people in every walk of life.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Well, Ken, thank you again. And I'm wishing you and your team and your family tons of success and health, through these challenging times that we're going to be rolling through here. And just very much looking forward to hopefully having this conversation with you a year from now about all the great things that came about and how you guys were able to push through and make magic happen still, even with again these challenging months that we're about to face. So really appreciate you coming on the show, spending time with us here today. And folks, again, Ken Van Liew is the website. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this week's show. And until we meet again next week, this is your host, Kevin Bupp, wishing you huge success. You guys take care now.
Congratulations! Now you've got more of the best tricks of the trade in building massive amounts of passive income from real estate. For more amazing resources, visit realestateinvestingforcashflow.com, and we'll see you next Monday morning.